Today in our 2019 Ram ProMaster 2500, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Curt Class 3 Custom Fit Trailer Hitch Receiver. So here's what our hitch is going to look like once we have it installed. The cross tube is going to be hidden behind the bumper, and all we're going to see is that receiver tube sticking out. As you can see, our hitch is going to stick out just past our bumper, but not enough to where it's going to cause a hazard when we're walking behind it. It is a Class 3 hitch, which means it's going to give us that 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening and have a really wide variety of options when it comes to accessories. Now the way we're going to mount any of those accessories to the hitch pin hole here on this side, it is going to accept a standard 5/8 pin and clip. Now these aren't included with the kit, but you can pick them up here at etrailer.com along with some locking devices to keep your accessories secure. Now if you do plan on doing some towing, our safety chain loops are going to be a plate style, but they're going to be in the vertical position, which means we're not going to have to worry about interference from our hitch pin or locking device, and you can see that we got plenty of room to get most size hooks on or off. As far as the weight capacity goes, our hitch is going to have a 500-pound tongue weight, which is the maximum downward force of the receiver tube, along with a 5,000-pound gross trailer weight rating. That's the amount our hitch can pull, including the trailer and everything we have loaded on it. Now with all those numbers in mind, you always want to double check your ProMaster's owner's manual because you don't want to exceed the manufacturer's recommended weight. Now Curt does recommend using a safety strap when carrying any non-trailer loads, such as a bike rack or a cargo carrier. I'd like to give you a few measurements, and these are going to help you out whenever you're looking for accessories for your hitch, like a ball mount, a bike rack, or even a cargo carrier. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the outermost edge of the bumper is going to be right about 2 inches. But our receiver tube is going to stick out just a little bit. So from the center of the hitch pin hole to the outer edge of the receiver tube, it's going to be right about 2.5 inches. From the ground to the inside top edge of the receiver tube opening, it's right about 18.5 inches. That measurement is going to help you out when you're looking for a ball mount to find the appropriate rise or drop to match up to your trailer. So now that we've seen what our hitch looks like and gone over some of the features, let's show you how to get it installed. To begin our installation, we want to open up our rear doors so we can get access to the rear bumper cover here. We're going to have a total of 4 screws that are holding it in place. There'll be one on the very end, a couple towards the center, and then another one on the other end. Grab a T30 Torx bit, and we can pull those 4 screws out. Then if we move to the bottom of our bumper cover, we're going to have 4 more. We'll have one on the end as well as one a little bit towards the center on each side. We use that same T30 Torx bit to pull all 4 of those out. Now our van doesn't have any kind of backup sensors or anything on it, but if yours does, you want to make sure you disconnect it. It'll be right here at the bottom of the bumper cover on the passenger side. With all the fasteners removed, we're going to pull our bumper cover away and we'll set it aside for right now. Behind that, we're going to have our bumper structure, and on each side we're going to have 2 bolts on top here that we're going to have to remove. Now since the bumper structure itself is kind of in the way, it'll help to use a short extension and a swivel. I'm going to be using a 16mm socket, and we're going to pull those bolts out. Now on the back side of our bumper structure, we're going to have a nut that's holding it to the frame on the bottom. Grab a 15mm socket and we can pull that nut out. Now once you remove the other nut on the other side, you want to be careful and kind of hold that bumper structure in until you can safely support it and pull it out. Then we'll just grab our bumper structure and we're going to pull it away. We're going to set this down because we're actually going to be attaching the hitch to this structure itself. So we have our bumper structure sitting right behind our hitch on the ground. Now before we put these 2 together, we're going to have to fish wire some hardware into our bumper structure so we can bolt them together. So we'll take a fish wire, and on the back of the structure we'll have 2 holes. We want to go in one of the holes with the coiled end, and we're going to feed it through so we can access it through the large opening on the front of our structure. So let's feed the wire in until it comes out. Then we can take one of our square hole spacer blocks, go over the coiled end, then we're going to grab one of our carriage bolts thread it onto the end of the wire. And push both pieces into the frame. Then we're going to pull on the bolt until it comes through. Now we're going to repeat that for the other hole on the other side as well. So with our bolts in place on our bumper structure, we're going to lay our hitch flat on the ground so the receiver tube's sticking up. Then we're going to take our fish wires, we're going to go through the holes in the center of the hitch here. We can lift our bumper structure up and over to where those holes are going to line up. And we want to make sure that our bolts are going to come through. The weight of the bumper structure will help keep them in place when we can rotate it up. Now, one thing I do want to mention, if we come to the side plates, you want to make sure that the stud on your bumper structure is coming through that bottom hole on the hitch. So we can remove our pull wire. We're going to take one of the flange nuts that's in our kit, and we're going to secure it to the bolt. And you want to make sure that you get it nice and snug and that bolt's not going to fall back inside. We'll do that for both bolts. I'm going to come back with a 3/4 inch socket, and I'm going to snug up my hardware. So since these are going to be kind of hard to reach and torque down once we get everything in place, I'm going to come back with a torque wrench and torque them down now to the specified amount in the instructions. I'm going to repeat that for both of the bolts. Now with an extra set of hands, we're going to lift our hitch up, and the bumper structure is one section. And instead of using the factory bolts, we're going to replace them with these new bolts. And you just want to make sure you get at least one started on each side so it'll support itself when we get the rest of the hardware in place. I'm going to come back with a 13mm socket, and I'm going to snug up all the bolts holding everything in place. Then we're going to reuse the factory nuts that came off those studs. So we can thread them back in place by hand, then come back and snug them up. And we'll come back with our torque wrench, and we're going to torque all of our hardware down to the specified amount of the instructions. I want to make sure you go back and repeat that for any remaining hardware you have. Then we can finally take our bumper cover, we can line it back up, and replace all the hardware that we took out in the beginning. So with our bumper cover and everything back in place, that'll finish up our install, and we're ready to hit the road. That'll finish up your look at the Curt Class 3 Custom Fit Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2019 Ram ProMaster 2500.